Has Biden lost all the extremists?
The community here is already suffering.
The residents living in NYCHA's Queensbridge houses look forward to the mobile food pantries that show up weekly. But over the past year, they have witnessed 8,000 migrants move into their neighborhood, and they have also noticed the migrants are also starting to take their stuff.
They was first online for the turkeys this morning. If they tell you to be there at 11 o'clock, you get there like 10:30, 10:45, but they already out there. The line is from over there to over.
Bitch right now. I'm an angry ass bitch right now. I'm an angry bitch. Y'all need to get in here because I'm about to go off right now. Right now. Yeah, I'm about to go off right now. Come on.
Trump, pig dick Donald Trump, and all that. But we need to get this whole fucking situation under control.
Outside the DNC, we're outside the Democratic Party headquarters because this party claims to be on the side of life and peace and equality, and we're saying that we want them to live up to their values and oppose this horrific war and call for a ceasefire now, and we're being responded to by the police shoving anti-war activists down the stairs, shoving peaceful protesters back with their bikes, and because our party that 80% of us want a ceasefire, would rather beat up protesters.
Hold on.
Decided I'd roll a little bit of a montage for you guys so that way you guys can see exactly what's been going on over the past couple of weeks with this current administration. And of course, this guy's response to all this, of course, is to do the normal, let's just say the normal weird stuff that Biden does.
Thank you. And I love your ears. I love them. They're really cool. What's your name?
Catherine.
Catherine, what a beautiful name. That's my mommy's name. Well, nice to see. How old are you, 17?
Okay, now with that right there out of the way, we can now officially get to the video. So you saw a little bit of Cardi B there, which, by the way, Cardi B was eventually called out by her own fan base. Of course, she actually did respond. And even though it looks like she put some filters on her face there, and also to go on top of that, even though she doesn't exactly speak very eloquently, if you actually cut through the minutia, it's not exactly what we say, completely unintelligent. And also to go on top of this, when she did in fact get, let's just say, the responses from her fan base, she surprisingly didn't fold. We'll tell you exactly what she said here in a minute, but we will also be discussing Rappaport in this video and why it is that Biden may have actually lost the full-blown extremist vote, that right there being those that are the left-wing purists and, of course, those under the age of 35. But I'm also going to be taking on this other issue because, once again, we're hearing the conversations, we're hearing the talk of the Democratic Party wanting to replace Joe Biden due to some very, very bad poll numbers, which I'm showing you guys in the B-roll footage. But don't get too excited if you want Biden out or if you want Trump in or whatever, because even as a Trump guy, I do understand how these polls work. And I'll tell you which ones I actually believe towards the end. Now, if there's a consistency showing, then obviously this is a problem for the sitting president. But at the same time, though, I need to give you guys my honest opinion on that. That will come more at the end of the video. But we're also going to be discussing why it is that he has actually lost the extremist vote. And of course, I'm showing you guys some footage here in the some stuff in the B-roll footage. This, of course, was in Washington, D.C. People were outside the Democratic Party headquarters raising 15 counts of hell because of what that girl said at the very beginning. They want a ceasefire in Israel, Gaza stuff. And of course, you know, you start to hear people say that, well, Trump did an insurrection on 6/1. I've got to say it that way because of the way the algorithm works. But of course, we've also seen these pro-Palestinian protesters try to breach the White House the exact same way the radical left tried to breach the White House back in the summer of 2020 during the George Floyd riots. And of course, these lefties don't even want to acknowledge that because they've got to kind of keep up the narrative. So just know right now that anybody telling you that there was something that happened on 6/1, just know that they're, for the most part, as this new footage is coming out, which of course I'm not going to be able to cover without getting a nice little thing placed on the video itself, just know that they're just simply NPCs keeping up the actual narrative itself because they don't have anything else to discuss. That right there being said, though, let's go ahead and really and truly dive into this. So why has Biden lost the extremists? Well, this where it kind of goes to identity politics. Now, this video right here will be out on Wednesday. I'm making it on Tuesday. And, of course, the identity politics video, which has already been made, will be released on Wednesday, too. It's Thanksgiving week. Things are a little bit hectic. There's not going to be any videos on Thursday. There's going to be a follow-up to the identity politics video, which will be out on Friday, talking about identity politics on the right. And, of course, the video on Gen Z will be coming out on Saturday or Sunday 1. The thing is this right here. Biden has promised these people way too daggone much. For example, you get the situation I'm about to show you now in New York City, how the immigrant crisis is actually affecting the situation and is actually causing a lot of people to question exactly what is actually going on here. Let's go ahead and roll
NYCHA tenants and newly arrived migrants.
While tensions are growing with not enough food to go around.
Why do we have to take the butt of everything? Okay, this community here is already suffering.
The residents living in NYCHA's Queensbridge houses look forward to the mobile food pantries that show up weekly. But over the past year, they have witnessed 8,000 migrants move into their neighborhood, and they have also noticed the migrants are also starting to take their stuff.
They was first online for the turkeys this morning. If they tell you to be there at 11 o'clock, you get there like 10:30, 10:45, but they already out there. The line is from over there to over here.
Free food giveaways, especially during the holidays, have become a source of tension between longtime New Yorkers struggling to get by and newly arrived migrants who are using the system to survive. A month ago, one altercation got so heated between a resident and a migrant, someone ended up in the hospital.
We would never turn anyone away for a meal, but there simply just is not enough for both NYCHA residents and the migrant shelter residents.
Councilmember Julie Wan says she alerted the mayor to the growing tension in her community and was able to get $50,000 to increase the number of hot meals served inside NYCHA's. But she's concerned the mayor's new budget cuts will only put further stress on a community already living in scarcity.
People are going hungry right now. People are frustrated with not having enough to eat, not having heat and hot water in their shelters or in their houses in NYCHA. And people want to make sure that they just have their basic needs met, like any human would anywhere. And that's what's causing the tension.
And we're going to see what happens tomorrow. That's when the Reese family and Councilmember Wan are putting together a fall family feast equipped to serve 2,000 people. We're going to see how far the resources can stretch.
This right here will come back up when we get to the Cardi B section, but I've been covering the immigrant crisis for a while, the migrant crisis. So let's go ahead and take a really quick look at identity politics just for a quick second, because it's really what kind of caused Joe to be in this bit of tailspin and caused all the panic. So here's the deal. When you're bringing Hispanics over, and a lot of people will then counter the argument by saying, well, we're bringing a lot of these Hispanics over to take a lot of jobs that white people don't want to work. However, they're showing you exactly how racially out of touch they are, and they're showing you their level of racism when they turn right back around and they say that they say this because they're forgetting about an entire group of people that lives in the city. Those people are, in fact, people of color. They're black people. You're actually shafting them when you bring over more migrants because you're taking away potential job opportunities from them. Their response will be then to say, well, blacks are lazy, this, that, and the other. YouTube, I'm talking about what other people say, not me. So don't even try to beat this video up for that purpose. They'll say that, showing you that these people are, in fact, a lot more racist than they make themselves out to be. Of course, they love to virtue signal a lot of stuff there too, but I'll explain the virtue signal here in a second, because when we get to Michael Rappaport, that right there will pretty much go ahead and explain it to you guys, or at least it'll put it in your mind what's really going on. Fact of the matter, what's really going on here is that they're taking care of the migrants over the people who actually live in the area. It's led to a massive food shortage. Cardi B talked about this with the budget cuts in New York. I talked about this a week ago with New York and Chicago both, and the fact that New York is cutting their sanitation department is going to make things a lot worse. When these people use this argument of these people are taking jobs that a lot of other people will not want to work, I want you to counter that by simply saying to them, look, you've got an extremely bad economy right now with extremely hardcore inflation. These are all military-age people, mostly males, especially coming from a country like, say, Venezuela, which is not exactly friendly with the United States. Chances are they're probably going to be engaging in the criminal activities, especially given the fact that blacks and Hispanics typically don't tend to get along. They all vote the same way, or most of them do. Hispanics and black men, of course, are starting to wake up, but the fact of the matter is they are natural enemies, which is going to be discussed a little bit more in the second video talking about identity politics, because some of the clips that you're seeing now will, of course, be used in that video there. So you got to ask yourself a question. Why is it that Joe Biden, of course, is suffering in the polls? Well, we'll get to the polls in a second, but before we get there, let's get to the unintelligible Cardi B.
Bitch right now. I'm an angry ass bitch right now. I'm an angry bitch. Y'all need to get in here, because I'm about to go off right now. Right now. Yeah, I'm about to go off right now. Come on in. Hold up. Oh, yeah, outside, because usually I be having like 30,000 people by now, but I have 24,000. I need y'all to spread this fucking video. I need y'all to spread this video. And if something happens to me, it's because I'm speaking truth. So God forbid something happens to me or my family or some shit, is because niggas is after me because I'm speaking the truth. And here's the truth, right? In New York, there is a 120 million budget cut. There's a 120 million budget cut in New York that is going to affect schools, public libraries, and the police department. Y'all know I don't give a fuck about the cops, but like it is what it is. There's gonna be an $120 million budget cut with schools, with libraries, and the cops and the police department, and a $5 million budget. This is fucking crazy. And then you know what? I told myself this week, like, yo, the internet right now is too dark because celebrity drama, of course, we love it. We infuse with it. We watch it. But it's like, yo, that's little of what's really going on in the world right now. That's nothing compared to what's going on in the world right now. The world is in fucking shambles.
I see a lot of crime coming. That's typically what tends to happen when you put people of a certain race or a certain ethnicity that, quite frankly, is not even legal over it. There's an argument that a lot of the leftists love to use to counter this, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure I can quell that here in the next cut. Now, guys, that was only a bit of what she said. There's a lot of bad language in there, so therefore I can't really and truly use all of it. But just know that if you've got Cardi B who's saying, I'm never going to endorse another presidential candidate, this, that, and the other, and of course we'll get to Rappaport in a second, serial Trump hater, you already know that this has a problem. You see, Cardi B is starting to see something that a lot of people have already said would eventually happen. She's seeing that people of color are being put, let's just say they're being put not so much second class, but now third class. They're being put down under. As a matter of fact, I would even argue that it's really sixth or seventh. They're being put below LGBTQ, which we'll discuss more in the identity politics section. They're being put well below people who are Hispanic. They're being put well below the illegals themselves. They're being put well below under any other minority group, including those who are Jewish and those who are Arab both. Don't worry, we'll talk about that here in a second. They're being put below that, and she's starting to see that the budget cuts are actually being done. Now, some people countered her by saying that the President of the United States is not in charge of this, and quite frankly, Biden's not the problem, that Congress is the problem, that Republicans control Congress. And it is true that Congress, of course, the power of the purse is set by Congress. The problem with that is that the agenda itself is set by the lead executive. The lead executive is Joe Biden, and of course, this all goes back to the border crisis, of which, by the way, he has left open. So while Cardi B may be a little bit unintelligible, and of course, she's already gone through the criticisms from her group of supporters, she's actually correct. Most of the blame does, in fact, fall on the president. And by the way, I got to point out the fact that, once again, it looks like there's a filter on her face. It looks a little bit like AI, all that type of stuff there. But with that right there being said, let's go ahead and get to Michael Rappaport.
In New York City, climb in public in front of crowds of people, rip down UN flags, rip down Israeli flags, rip down American flags on Veterans Day. When the economy is the way the economy is, when I'm paying fucking mortgage rates up the wunk up, I mean, I'm getting, forget a colonoscopy. You don't need to get a colonoscopy. Go buy a house. The interest rates, go buy a car. And I know Smoking Joe has done some things for I know. But I'm telling you right now, go buy yourself, go check what it's like to buy a car. Buy a house. The money. The fucking chaos in this country. The chaos around the world. If it comes down to pig dick Donald Trump and Smoking Joe Biden, I'm sorry. I am sorry. Voting for pig dick Donald Trump is on the table.
This right was about a minute and a half rant by Michael Rappaport, where he was going on about the Palestinian protesters, the young people who were climbing up on poles and whatnot, taking down American flags, taking down Israeli flags on Veterans Day, stuff like that right there. He's upset about this, and of course, you all know that he's a serial Trump derangement syndrome figure. Now, guys, I could sit here and play for you everything that he has said about Donald Trump, I could play that all for you, but if I did that, the video would last about 30 or 45 minutes. And right now, I just don't have the capacity to be able to save all this until I get some more hard drives. Fact of the matter is that this right here explains Michael Rappaport perfectly, explains the white liberal perfectly. And by white liberal, I don't mean white leftist. I mean white classical liberal. Let me go ahead and kind of break this down for you. These people will never say it out loud, but these people love a society that is separated. Leave me alone. Let me do what it is I want to do. I don't care. Conservatives, of course, are the exact same way, but for the most part, conservatives, we typically tend to assimilate. If you are a person who lives in Texas, guess what? You're more than likely assimilated with Hispanics. If you're a person like me and you live in North Carolina, you guess what? You've more than likely assimilated with those who are of color. You've already assimilated with black people. We actually assimilate. Whereas places like, say, New York, Chicago, and even some of the towns throughout other areas in the country, especially the more blue areas, what they do is they separate people. They community organize. I'll give you a great example of this, perfect example. I went to Texas. I went to Fort Worth back in 2019 to go see family. We were having a conversation, and of course, this couple of the guys in the area explained to me exactly why the neighborhood was set up the way it was. They were praising the fact that it was clean, it was good to go, nice residential area, a relatively small town outside of Fort Worth. And they said that they basically segregated all the communities. Now, he didn't seem to understand what really and truly was going on. This right here, of course, is the suburban liberal language. Michael Rappaport is showing you that he wants people of color and people that they claim that they want to come over here, people that they love. He wants them separated from his actual area. Michael Rappaport, by the way, has been living in California because he's a D-list actor, but now he's moved back to New York, and he is a New Yorker, in fact. But the fact of the matter is this right here is beginning to get to him. Though you think he said, we got to get this thing under control. He's also bringing up the economy. Bear in mind, he's a D-list actor. He doesn't really have that much money. So, of course, if he wants to buy something relatively expensive or something that's relatively, it doesn't matter what it is, it's going to cost him a lot more money. And he's not getting any movie roles because, quite frankly, Hollywood doesn't care about him. They haven't cared about him since Copland, okay? That's the truth about Michael Rappaport. He's an absolute joke of a human being. But the reason why Michael Rappaport is acting this way is because he is seeing that assimilation is, in fact, a problem. He knows that these people at some point in time will get together and more crime will occur. He knows that when Trump was in office, it was not this bad. So when he says something like, tick, tick, don't, and there's also another thing too, and don't worry, we'll bring this back up in Friday's video about identity politics on the right. And he's going to be pretty much mentioned in that because he was at that pro-Israel rally that occurred over the last weekend. Fact of the matter is that the reality of the situation has gotten into his face, and I think that that little rant that he had was nice compared to all the other things that he has said. Now, guys, I did tell you that I was going to be discussing young people, and let me go ahead and say this. Now, you see, Biden's losing young people. He's losing young people because a lot of young people see that he's not exactly come through on the things that he says he was going to come through on. You see, young people you could almost classify as an identity group on its own as well. They make a lot of very ridiculous demands. Free college, UBI, handouts, all that type of stuff. There are people who just don't want to work. Another reason why it is I don't think you can fully blame Gen Z for their problems, but you also can't blame boomers for the problems of Gen Z as well. But don't worry, we'll talk more about that this weekend. The thing is this right here. Young people are seeing the situation going on overseas, and they want a ceasefire. Half of them are thinking to themselves, I'm going to get drafted to go in the military. I'm going to get drafted. Which, of course, the draft has not existed since 1970, 1971 time frame. A lot of these people are, of course, for selective service, but they don't seem to understand how selective service works. It's not like you apply for it and you automatically get plucked. That's not the way it works. Don't worry, we'll have a video explaining that a little bit more later on down in the future. Biden is losing these people, and he's starting to see that his whole promises of no new wars or whatever, which, by the way, the left loves to do, he's starting to see this is not exactly working. Go back to what Cardi B was complaining about earlier, which, of course, I'll leave the full 5-minute rant and the updated rant in the description box for you guys. She was saying we can't sustain 2 wars, and I'm telling you right now that eventually it's going to be 3 wars. That right there being Ukraine, which even though Ukraine may end in the next year, you've got Israel. I'm sure another one will pop up. I'm pretty sure Azerbaijan is going to get into it real soon with another nation. And then to go on top of this, you've got the situation in Taiwan. Fact of the matter is these people are starting to see that what they voted for is not exactly what they voted for. I mean, I love to use the term you voted for it, which means that you voted for a bunch of empty lies. That you had to use the virtue signaling angle, and of course, Biden is losing that. Now, about these polls. You guys saw the Real Clear Politics average. I'm bringing it back up on how is that Trump is consistently beating Biden in every single poll. Let me go ahead and tell you something. There's really only 2 polls that I actually believe, even though it's quite consistent. It's quite consistent that the eventual Republican nominee is being, and you're probably thinking to yourself they're going to replace Biden, but I'll get to that here in a second. The truth be told is I really only buy 2 polls in that group. I buy IBD, which is an Investor's Business Daily poll. You're a Trump guy. Why are you believing that Joe Biden's up? I'll explain here in a second. I believe the Rasmussen Reports poll. Rasmussen Reports gets like a B rating, but Rasmussen Reports has actually been accurate every presidential cycle. 2012, they got it right. 2008, they got it right. They actually got it right in 2016, even though they had Hillary up by 2. But she technically did win the popular vote by 2. You see, Republicans don't have to win the popular vote to get the election. They don't have to win the popular vote to win it all. If IBD has got Trump down by 2, chances are what that really means is that Trump is winning the election. He's winning the Electoral College, but not getting the popular vote. California, New York, Illinois, they have a lot more voters than a lot of other red states, so therefore there's going to be a lot more Democrat voters and people voting Democrat, which is going to automatically take the popular vote away from the Republican candidate. Meanwhile, the Republican goes out there, wins basically every other state in the Midwest that's much, much smaller, like, say, Wisconsin or Michigan, or who knows, with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and all the multiple candidates on the ballot splitting the vote, possibly Minnesota. You don't have to win the popular vote. You just got to win those states itself. That right there is the problem. So, no, I'm not deterred by the two blue notes down there, because the two blue notes, even being that way, seems to favor the Republican. However, this right here has led a lot of people out there to say that they will not be going with Joe Biden in this election cycle. They're going to replace him with Gavin Newsom. Now, before I play you guys this clip, I want you to know right now, I like D-Day Cobra. I have a lot of respect for D-Day Cobra. Geeks and gamers have grown on me. But on this issue right here, I fully 100% disagree with him on it, and I will explain why after you guys see this.
And that's the point I'm trying to get at right there. They are building up this narrative that Joe Biden is a lame duck candidate, and they do not think that he should be running. Now, again, we are about a year away from the general election. Watch how the media narratives start to spin. Watch how they start talking about his age. Watch how they start talking about how his health is so important. The narratives from the White House. All of this is going to happen, I believe. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't believe I am. And that's why we're seeing so many people on the left, the Michael Rappaports of the world. We heard Joe Biden himself say that Gavin Newsom could have his job. This is happening. This isn't just something I'm throwing out there. And trust me, again, for the 1,000th time, hope I'm wrong.
Talked about younger voters on.
Now, the important thing to take away from this is that we all know the polls are bullshit, and I'm not advocating for these polls. They're very small sample size, things like that. Historically, Trump voters don't even like dealing with pollsters, and Trump has historically been really bad in a lot of the polls. The fact that he is tracking this good is a massively bad sign for the Democrats. But again, I think a lot of this is coordinated, because I do think that these messages are being put out there by the media because they really do want to remove Joe Biden. They don't want him to run as a Democratic nominee. I want him to run as a Democratic nominee. I hope he's the Democratic nominee, but I don't think the powers that be want him.
Foreign policy, and it's true on a host of other topics. Disaffected with Joe Biden. We have 46% for Trump, 42% for Biden among the youngest voters. The youngest voters in the 2020 election were Biden plus 26. This could be a massive sea change. And if you take a look here, too, everybody sort of says, hey, I'm not too nuts.
He responded to Brandy Love in a previous video, who put up the fact that a lot of the candidates that are running would want to run for Joe Biden's seat. They've already gone beyond the deadline. In some of these cases, this is true. I'm rolling some of this for you guys in the B-roll. This was from Ballotpedia. Okay, Ballotpedia is accurate, but of course, the way they've got it set up on their website, some of the dates, of course, have already been filed. They've already gone past. So Biden's kind of in a position, the Democratic Party is kind of in a position where, like, you know what, we really and truly can't go with this. And some people have suggested Michelle Obama. Well, one of these polls that I'm showing you is the current Democratic Party field. Biden's actually beating her. The reason why is because Michelle Obama, people would typically tend not to like dynasties. 2 Bushes and basically the previous, in a span of like 20 years, was enough for people. That's part of the reason why people didn't show up and vote for Hillary Clinton in droves. They automatically assumed that she was going to win. In the case of Michelle Obama, they're probably going to think, man, she's got no political experience, and at least Hillary had that. They're probably not going to be inclined to vote for her. Not to mention the fact that the left, especially the anti-war left and the extremists, they didn't think that the Obamas were extreme enough. And they probably would automatically say to themselves, you know what, we don't want her in there. It's just going to be more of Barack, because they actually turned on Barry in the second term. They were actually turning on him in the first term. But one more thing to go on top of this. Gavin Newsom if you're going to replace Joe Biden with Gavin Newsom, I need you to know this right now. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And I'll explain further after you guys hear this explanation from Larry Elder.
Back with Republican presidential candidate Larry Elder. Larry, I want to show you these latest polls. Washington Post, ABC News reporting that President Trump is now 10 points above Joe Biden in a one-on-one head-to-head race. Your thoughts on the 2024 election? Will anybody be able to cut into President Trump's lead here?
I don't think so. People are worse off than they were 2-3 years ago. The borders are insane. And this business about Gavin Newsom coming in all of a sudden, are you kidding me, Maria? Their first Democrat primary is South Carolina. 60% of the voters on the Democratic side are black. Most of those are black females. And they love, love, love Kamala Harris. And if it is perceived she's dropkick for a white dude like Gavin Newsom, black women they won't vote Republican. They just won't vote, thereby guaranteeing whoever our nominee is, he or she will win the nomination. You live by the gender and race card. You die by the gender and race card. They cannot afford to drop kick Kamala Harris. They are stuck with her. If Joe Biden can fog up a mirror.
What about this idea that the Democrats are going to roll in Michelle Obama at the end of the day?
Ask Kamala Harris if she wants to be rolled out for Michelle Obama. She ran for president. She wants to be president. The only way she can go is if she says, you know what, I'm so incompetent, I'm out of here. She will not do that. They got a huge problem. It's called Joe Biden. Their second problem is called Kamala Harris, and they're not going anywhere.
All right, we'll leave it there. Larry Elder, thanks very much.
You're not going to replace Joe Biden with another white man. If you're going to replace Joe Biden with anybody, you're going to replace Joe Biden with somebody who fits the identity politics mold. I actually agree with Greg Foreman when he says he believes that what they're going to do is they're going to throw Kamala Harris out there with Pete Buttigieg. And of course, if you're voting against them, you're anti-black and you're also anti-gay. Even though Buttigieg's gayness is actually somewhat questionable when you actually go through and look at his actual past itself. And then to go on top of this, when you look at Kamala Harris, you find out that she's not really and truly black. She's actually half Indian, half Jamaican. But because she's not a white face, people of color automatically assume, I'm just glad she ain't white. You're not going to replace that. You're not going to replace Joe Biden with Kamala Harris. Oh, excuse me. You're not going to replace him with Gavin Newsom. You would replace him with Kamala Harris. Or you would try to replace him with another black face. That way you keep the identity politics there. Now, guys, Cobra had released a tweet on this saying Gavin Newsom is coming, and I actually, a very small Twitter account, trying to link it in the description box, said that it's true that the Democrats do not play by the rules, but they do play to their voter base. They know that their voter base is pretty much the whole birth that they have is basically based around identity politics, LGBTQ, black women, of course, any type of minority as a whole, and white liberals. That rather is how they do things. So who would they go to? Well, the natural order would be to go to Kamala Harris, who's currently sitting in the White House as VP. And, of course, they're not going to get her to move out of the way to put Michelle Obama out there. And to go on top of this, you kind of running the risk of sending her out there right now because more than likely she's not going to be able to get on the ballot because the filing dates have already passed. Now, they could pull some WWE-style crap at the very, very end, but I don't think it would save the party or save their presidency or their agenda because you're bringing it in too late and people automatically would have suspected that was occurring anyways, and they're not going to be that excited about it because she's not exactly what we call Barry. She's not Barack Obama, so she's not going to be able to excite the base the way he did. Fact of the matter is that these people are stuck with Joe and they're stuck with Kamala Harris. They're stuck with Joe and the garden tool. That right there is the real case. That's the real meat of this entire situation. And also to go on top of this, in 2020, the Democratic Party put so much effort into black women voters because they know that black women voters are the most reliable voting base. They pander to them, of course, with voting rights and abortion, even though it's very, very funny that they do that because these people already have a right to abortion and they already have a right to vote, which is very, very weird when they scream about voting rights. We don't have any voting rights, but then they go out there and actually vote. It's a very weird dichotomy that I'll be explaining a little bit further in video two. So make sure you guys stick around for that one there. Fact of the matter is that it looks like Joe, of course, has lost the extremists. And I'll be explaining it more in detail exactly why we call them that right there and why it is that identity politics is the thing that they've ran on and why it is this actually calls their undoing their actual ruin. I'll be talking about that in the second video that comes out on Wednesday. So make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sound off in the comment section. Please leave a comment. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. It's also great for the algorithm too. Please hit that thumbs up button. It also helps with the algorithm. And please subscribe if you're new here. And I'll see you guys later.